Hi, ladies, and welcome to our interview with Pam Smithgall, a travel agent. There's going to be lots of really cool information that you're going to learn about what it is to be a travel agent. Pam, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Could you introduce yourself to the girls and tell them a little bit about what it is that you do?
Yes. Hi, ladies. My name is Pam Smithgall. My company is South Shore Travel. I'm in south of Houston, the League City area. It's an area called South Shore Harbor, so that's kind of how we came up with the name. And yeah, I've been doing, I do travel planning, have been doing this for about 14 years. No, actually 22, because I'm counting part of the time I did it sort of as a part-time job and then full-time. So yeah, 22 years. So we coordinate travel to, we do lots of travel to Europe. Lots to the Caribbean, and also the South Pacific, like Tahiti, places like that. And we do a lot of cruises, especially the smaller ships that you may not have heard of, but the cruises that go on the rivers in Europe, some of the rivers in the States now, and even some of the Great Lakes, there's going to be some cruises. So sometimes it makes more sense to travel by water, and sometimes it makes more sense to travel by land. So it just depends on what works for the clients and what they want.
So is there a way, is there like a specialty? Because you said a little bit about like what it, with the European and everything. So are there lots of specialties within being a travel agent?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. For instance, I have a friend who has an agency in Louisiana, and all she does is what we call romance travel. If it's a destination wedding or it's anniversary trip, something like that. I do some of that. What I tell people my specialty is I create journeys from your everyday to moments that take your breath away. And so sometimes people want, maybe they want a romance trip. They want to go to the Caribbean or South Pacific to a beautiful beach. Or maybe they want to do something that's more about history and culture. Like you see behind me, my screen has London. So maybe it's the UK or maybe Italy. We do lots of Italy. So we do a lot of those trips where people are kind of celebrating something. Maybe it's an anniversary. Maybe it's we have a lot of families that the students are graduating from high school or college, and the whole family decides, okay, let's go on a big trip together. Because especially if students are about to leave home, they're graduating from high school or college, and it's going to be harder for everybody to get together. So we do a lot of those kinds of trips. And if there's something that I don't really specialize in, the nice thing about my network of contacts, like for instance, an African safari. Okay, that's not really my specialty. Mm-hmm. But I have a lady who's actually from South Africa, and if somebody wants an African safari, I get in touch with her, and so she actually kind of takes care of the clients more directly. But there are lots of specialties, and I do a lot with people that are interested in food. Like we call it foodie travel.
Yeah.
We've all been very spoiled now. You go to a restaurant and the food is so good, and we have every kind of variety of food here, and especially in Houston. So sometimes people want to go to Italy and they want to learn to make pasta, or they want to go see where they grow the grapes and the olives, and if they're all into wine or something like that. So there's kind of specialized types of trips that we do. So
that's really, it's fascinating to think about how specialized you can actually get within being a travel agent, doing just cruises or doing just like really like the African safaris like you were talking about, because there's a lot to know about within a particular region, where the places to go, where the places not to go, what's the reputable hotel, what isn't, all of that kind of thing. So that's I don't think a lot of times people think about how much you have to know about so many different things. So it's very cool.
Yeah. Sometimes people have said, oh, I want to, have you been to, let's say, Italy? And they'll think that's the only reason they would book with me. I'm like, no, it's not just the fact that I've been there. It's because I know all the details of what to do and who to work with. Because there's, the internet has, anybody can have a website. Mm-hmm. There's lots of people out there that maybe aren't trying to scam you, but just aren't being real honest. Like they'll show a picture of a beach and oh, it's so beautiful. And okay, I've been to that beach. I know what it looks like. It doesn't look like in that picture. So, you need to have somebody that's on your side protecting you.
Absolutely. And so another question that I would have for you, because I know probably what our girls are used to thinking about with travel is like Expedia, TripAdvisor, that kind of thing, as those being the ways to book travel and everything. So then why would somebody what's the added value for using a travel agent versus just doing it myself?
Right.
You know what I mean?
We get that question a lot. And, it's kind of funny. Years ago, before the internet and all that, if you wanted any kind of trip, you went to the neighborhood travel agent. Okay.
Right.
And then in the 90s or, whenever the internet became kind of a thing, everybody was so fascinated by, oh, look, I can click and I can do this. Okay, well, good. And of course, it's been interesting seeing it evolve because people have realized, in fact, a lot of our millennials have realized, well, yeah, you can click and book some things here and there, but you don't really have anybody taking care of you. You don't have anybody that is really on your side, and because we're going through this big pandemic right now, a lot of people have said, oh, I am so glad I booked with you, because even just the details of having to cancel a trip or maybe move the money that you've already paid, you don't want to lose that money if you can keep from it, being able to move that money forward to a future trip. A lot of people just thought, oh my goodness, I've just got to cancel everything. And I would have to explain, okay, hang on, let's think it through. Let's make sure we do what's best for you. Because I've saved people a whole lot of money that, they had already paid all this money towards a trip, and they would have just lost it if they just canceled the way they thought they should. But so if you have somebody that's a real professional that's on your side, I've got a great network of resources that lots of expertise. So I work for the client. So some of the people that have, done I'm going to go click on something, I'm hearing some horror stories, because you're not dealing with a person who's in your community, who's going to be there for you long term. You're dealing with somebody that's, maybe been hired as just a part-time person to answer the phone. Well, not answer the phone actually, but to, do some of the computer work. They're really not there for you long term, and they've probably been laid off now during this. So,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm here, even though this is a very weird time, I'm still here for my clients. And, in fact, what I'm doing now is handling the cancellations and the moving forward of monies. Because, if you spend a lot of money on a wonderful trip, you don't want to lose that money.
No, exactly.
And there's travel insurance. And sometimes people think all travel insurance is created equally and will cover things equally. That's not the case. I've had to explain a lot of things to people. So you have to really know your stuff, the details of the trip and how it's set up, as well as the destination. And then you've got to not forget you're running a business.
Right.
You have to do things in a very, very upfront way and be very honest with people. And, sometimes I can help them out and save the day. I'm the big hero. Sometimes I can't, and I have to be very upfront with them. Like, here's the situation. So,
yeah, wow, that's a lot that really goes into all the consideration of what all a travel agent does. I mean, that's a lot to have to juggle, I would think. So
sometimes it is.
So what even motivated you, or where did you, want to, like, where did the desire to become a travel agent come from? Like, what made you think, like, oh, that's a great career path for me?
Yeah. Well, I was a teacher. I taught in the school district, and I was starting to get burned out. And I feel like if you get into teaching, which is a wonderful thing, but if you start to get kind of burned out, it's time to do something else. Because I didn't want to be one of those teachers that was burned out and still teaching. And no, so I found out about, getting into the travel business, and I did it part-time. I was kind of working under the umbrella of another company. So I got into the business part-time. I worked long hours, because it would be after my long day of teaching. And then when we had some school holidays, I could do more all day, and built the business. You build a reputation in the community, because especially in today's world of all the online reviews. It's it's a very very important that you build a good reputation. So built a good reputation because I had always loved. I taught music, always loved music, and always loved travel. And so, in fact, the first time I went to Europe and stood in the wonderful studio where Mozart wrote one of his operas, and there's angels painted on the ceiling, and I just remember getting tears in my eyes, going, "Oh, I can't believe I'm really here." And so, those are the kind of moments that I love to show people. Travel it's similar to teaching in that you're opening people's eyes to places they may not have ever thought they'd get to go. And places they never knew about. I mean, like in January, before we had our pandemic, I was in Iceland, and it was amazing. I mean, it was freezing cold, but I've had so many people see my pictures because I'm on social media quite a bit. They're like, "Wow, I had no idea." I'm like, "Oh, it was cold, but it was so neat." We go hang out right by these huge waterfalls, and we hiked on a glacier and this lava cave and rode these horses. I mean, but it's just neat to open people's eyes to things that, people keep going, "I never thought about Iceland." I'm like, well, let's talk about Iceland.
Exactly. So that sounds like a lot of fun, and to be able to not only have that in your own life, but to be able to help other people experience that. That sounds really, really awesome and rewarding.
Yeah. You get to be involved in people's lives. And sometimes you have things where like maybe somebody's ill and they know I'm really not going to be around very long, and they want to take their family on some big trip. And those trips, really touch your heart because you've got to get it right, and you make sure they're very well taken care of. And there's the trips where it's somebody's honeymoon, or maybe it's a destination wedding. We've done that where the people go and get married on some beautiful beach, and their whole family goes, and seeing their reactions and the tears in their eyes when they tell you about the experience is really special. So that's kind of the things. Those are the kind of things that keep you going.
Those are the kind of things that keep you going, but also that a lot of people don't think about when they travel agents. So that's really very cool. So how do you become a travel agent then? Is there like a travel agent college that you go to, or is there just, you take some online classes? Like, how is it that you actually become a travel agent?
Okay. Well, years ago, back before I got into the business, there were travel agent schools, because at that time, so much of what they did was, it was computer based, which was kind of ahead of its time, but it was more about airline tickets. Okay. And nowadays, because we can, we can do those same airline tickets, but it's based on the internet. That's how we transmit the information. So you don't really have to go to one of these schools, because it's not that you're learning some whole different system, different than anything else. Okay, I think that makes sense. But so how I got started, it's kind of unusual because it's more of nowadays, there's not an official, like you go to get this, like when I got my college degrees, that was a prescribed, here's what you do, here's your degree. Okay, so it's not really like that so much. It's more, most people start out working for another company. Sometimes people work for an airline or whatever and kind of learn some generalities about the business. But it's more setting up your business. There's a lot of business training. Yeah. And then you learn the procedures, and whether it's let's say a cruise line like Crystal Cruises, okay, top luxury cruise line of all. They will have classes to kind of teach you about them. Okay. And then the booking process is not that different from one kind of thing to another because it is internet based. So the internet has made a lot of things easier to transmit the information and to connect and book whatever the different things are. So there's lots of what we call supplier training, like I said, Crystal Cruises, or, if I want to send people, like I send a lot of people to Sandals Resorts in Caribbean, and that's a company probably a lot of you've heard of. So, they'll have some training classes where we go and we really soak up for a whole day. Let's get to know exactly what the deal is with this resort versus this one. And sometimes those classes will be actually at the resorts. So, you get to go, and it's kind of funny, the trips where you go and you train, you're staying in some beautiful place. but you're not goofing off like everybody else. You're the person that's, while everybody else is at the pool, you're walking around taking pictures and taking notes and all this stuff, so it's kind of funny. It's people go, oh, you get to go to these great places. Yeah, I do, but sometimes I'm working really hard while I'm at those great places. So but anyway, so there's lots of supplier training, and just like the way I know Italy so well is I stayed there for 3 weeks one time, just there learning, because each little town's different. So there's lots of training that's that type of thing, that's destination based. And of course, right now we can all do a lot of things with Zoom and stuff like that. Like just this week, I was on a little Zoom class with some people that run a resort out in the South Pacific, out in Bora Bora. And so even though I had been to that resort, it was nice to have them show me, the updates, like we've done this to the rooms and we've changed this pier or changed this restaurant or those kind of things.
Very neat. It's neat to think about the fact that, again, like you said, that you get to go and visit these places, and yes, you might be working, but yeah, and the fact that they do, like, they provide the training, specific to their resorts and that kind of thing. So that's cool to know about that.
Even though it's, okay, let me mention this, even though it's not required, I think for anybody that would like to go into the travel business, if you get your, maybe get a business degree or a marketing degree, because marketing is a big part of this, because part of marketing is opening people's eyes to what's out there, and and how to do it in the best possible way. So I think a business degree would really help. There are some hospitality degrees. I know University of Houston has I've forgotten exactly what it's called, but it's a hospitality type of business, and so sometimes people go there. So having a degree is a great thing. Even though my degrees are both in music education, nobody can ever take that away from you. Absolutely. And that benefits you. It teaches you, education teaches your brain how to think. Okay. So I think that's very important for people to understand that to really run the business, you got to know how to think. And of course there's been some marketing and business things that I really wasn't up on. So I've had to take those kind of classes that aren't directly travel related, but they're business related, because I thought, I need to know this a lot better than I do. So. Absolutely.
And I think it's important, ladies, for you to realize that yes, you've got that end goal of, like, just got a few more years left of school, as soon as I get out of college and then I join the real world or whatever, and I can be done with school. And no. No, you're going to constantly be learning and that kind of thing. And that's a good thing.
Yes.
So within your career of being a travel agent, what do you think has been maybe the biggest thing that you've struggled with? And then how have you handled it?
Well, the whole pandemic thing, let me tell you, this has been unique. I don't usually have many people cancel trips. So for this last month or so to be all about canceling and moving, that has been very tedious and not a lot of fun. So, but the biggest struggle is probably, being able to, like I said, educate people and explain to people, because people see the marketing that's kind of shoved in their face, and they see this deal, look at this deal and book now. And I tell people all the time, if it's a deal that doesn't fit you, you just wasted your money. I think people work too hard for their money, and they take, not nearly as much time for themselves and their families getting away. And I hate to see them waste their money. So I just have to tell them all the time, if it looks too good to be true, I bet it's probably not true. So we fight that a lot, because people, and they'll come to me later and go, oh, I should have listened to you, because we clicked on that, whatever it was, and it was miserable. Like, well, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I hate to go, I told you so. Try not to do that.
I'll help you out next time.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And you've talked a lot about what's really been a rewarding part of your career. So then what has been maybe the funnest trip that you've taken?
That I've taken? Mm-hmm. Well, there's been some really good ones. the trip to Iceland in January, because it was I really didn't know exactly what I was getting into either. And it was so fascinating because, first of all, it's freezing cold. And people think, you're going to go to Iceland in January? Well, I had a big birthday anyway. So, but going somewhere like that where you just discover a whole new, just the scenery and the culture and the people, it was, they're all about Vikings. Their ancestry is the Vikings. And, that is a tough bunch of people that survived there years ago, because that is a rough environment if you lived there 100 years ago or something. So that was really fascinating. But, the time I was in Italy for the 3 weeks, because I was there while they were harvesting grapes and harvesting olives. And that was just so neat. When you go somewhere so different from home and you meet the people and you taste the food, it's just really cool.
It does sound like a lot of fun. It really does. So you've talked a little bit too about the changes within the travel agency world. How is, when you first started off, you probably had some kind of idea what it was going to be like to be a travel agent and everything. Now that you're so, I think you said it was 22 years that you've been into it now.
Yeah.
So how is it different than you thought it was going to be?
Well, when I first got into the business, it was going to be all fun. Oh, it was going to be so much fun. Never a moment of like, oh, what am I doing? So, and I thought, people would be more, would listen more once. I knew when I first started out, I didn't really know everything. And so I would be very honest with people saying, okay, I'm new to this. Here's what I do know. Here's what I don't know. But after I got, I'm an expert now. And so I remember back then thinking, well, I thought people would listen a little bit more and value what you have to say. But, there were a lot of folks that, and of course, some of these are the same people that come back to me now and go, oh, I should have listened to you. Maybe you should have. But so I thought it would be more about the destinations and not so much about running a business, and marketing. I just, I've learned a lot about marketing. Did not realize it was going to be such a marketing situation, so.
I don't think about the fact that what all goes into running your own business.
Yeah. And just nowadays, with the social media and stuff, there's so much to learn about how do you, if you do a Facebook, an ad, or you do a live, or how do you promote that so you get it, because you want to get it in front of people that it appeals to. I don't want to, if somebody doesn't care, okay, like London behind me, if somebody doesn't care about going to London and I send them all this information about, oh, London, well, they're just going to be annoyed because they're like, I don't care about that. So it's, there's some really great opportunities out there through Facebook and that kind of venue, where you can really get in front of people that are interested in what you do, but you have to learn how to do it. And it's and like my website, I'm doing a few little tweaks to my website. There's a real art to that. And one thing you learn is you better trust the professionals. Like, don't try to do your own website because it'll look hokey. And, just learning to trust the professionals with different things that you do, whether it's a bookkeeper or something like that. I have an assistant now who works with me, and there's some things she's really good at. I'm like, hey, you do that, have at it. Because that frees up my time to do what I'm really good at. So,
absolutely, that's a huge thing to think about and consider, is that it's like, let people do what they're good at doing, and you do, so that way you can do the things that you're really good at doing.
Yeah.
So that's a great note to end on, by the way. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for your time today. Sure. Ladies, be sure that you scroll down below the video. There's going to be a little bit of a written portion of the interview with Pam. And then below that, there's the comment section. So any questions or comments that you have for her, please put them down there, and I'll be sure to have her come back and check it out and answer your questions. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks.